So what episode is this of The Gaming Lovers, My Gaming Lover?
Episode 66.
No, but that says 66. Oh, it says 65. Wait, why is it 66 and 65 for the last one?
That's because Apple Podcasts are stupid.
What? Huh? Do they number them? But we haven't done 66.
Well, we're about to, but then it's going to say 67 on it. That's why I add the numbers, because Apple, for some reason, adds an extra episode to the beginning of everyone's podcast. But thankfully, there are other ways to listen to this. It's not just that.
Why do they add it? Why do they add an extra number?
Because it's like a trailer episode, so they count that as episode 1, even though we technically don't have a trailer episode.
Episode 0.
That's what it should be, really.
It should be.
But that's how it is.
So our numbers are mucked up and it's not our fault.
Yes.
Who do I sue?
The Gaming Lovers Podcast with Brendo and Jem.
Welcome back, one and all, to the official, asterisk, #1 podcast hosted in Australia by a husband and wife talking about video games called The Gaming Lovers Podcast. That's an actual fact, I'm sure of it. I haven't actually fact-checked it, though. I am Brendo.
I'm Jem.
Oh, you sound horrific.
Yes. The busyness of the past couple of weeks has officially caught up with me, and I'm down with the cold. I'm not sure if it's cold or a flu yet.
It
Figuring
better not
that
be a
out.
flu. I'm sitting in a box with you, recording this podcast. I thought it was just a sniffle. I do not want a flu. Last
not
time I
sure
had a
yet.
serious flu, I was at Disney, and it ruined my life
Ruined your time at Disney.
for those 10 days. Well, how exciting. Here we are for another episode of the Gaming Lovers Podcast.
Yes.
Here to talk what we have been playing, what we're looking forward to, what's happening in the world. The Witcher coming to Netflix.
Yes, the trailer has dropped with some mixed responses.
There
To say
always
the
is.
least. Yes, I'm excited. I don't think it looks bad, but I like Henry Cavill, so I have no issue with the casting. Some people might not like it so much, but I think he's a good pick personally. That said, there were a lot of funny comments on Facebook. Everyone's comparing it to the game, and I mean that is probably the most popular format of The Witcher is these games, and that's what's made it probably possible for it to be turned into these Netflix series in the first place. If you didn't have these games, I kind of doubt that anyone would have cared enough about the books to then turn it into a movie or series. Yeah?
There was originally a book series by a Polish man, and he also then allowed it to be made into a video game. Little did he know how popular the video game would be. And
Very smart choice.
Well, he might not have made a perfect contract. Imagine that. If you didn't get a cut of the royalties
Oh my
properly,
goodness.
you'd be kicking yourself in Polish.
Well, the Netflix series is based on the books,
Yes,
not the
they
video
made
games.
that very clear on the trailer.
Yes, but it makes me feel better knowing that the leading man is a big fan of both the books and the video games, that he really wanted this role because he loves it so much and isn't just an actor that was chosen that fits it and then doesn't know the universe, which happens a lot. And I don't know, personally, it just makes me happy to know that it's not just an actor, but a fan as well, because they're going to treat it with a bit more love and respect.
Yeah, I'm always cautiously hesitant when it comes to these things, particularly Netflix adaptions. There is a meme about it for a reason.
Yes.
And we will just have to wait and see how Geralt of Rivia makes it to the streaming screen. It's not the silver screen, it's the streaming screen. Very difficult to say. Let's get down to business, my dear.
We had a tweet from Narcus who asked us what our favourite video game developer of all time, like if we could only choose one to play for the rest of our life, what would it be from that developer? Like, which one? Gotta choose a one.
So the question was posed. As always, we started a dialogue about it, and as 90% of these podcasts end up being, we started to have such a large-scale discussion. We thought, no, this is not a Brendo and Jem discussion. This is for everybody to listen in on.
once we started breaking it down, we realized there was so much more to this choice. It's not just a simple, oh, I really love this game series, so therefore I love that developer and I'd be happy with that forever. No. So much more to it. And because we love so many different games, like this is like the ultimate Sophie's choice right here.
This was one of the questions that I'm like, oh, that's easy. The answer is X.
No.
Okay, X and Y. X, Y, and Z, and W, and P, and K.
I choose all the A's.
Okay, maybe this isn't the easiest decision. But we're going to be talking about which game developers we have undying faith in. Whatever they touch turns to gold. We always look forward to their new releases. There's other developers that have had a good start and have sort of fallen off the rails a little bit as time has gone on.
Broken our trust recently.
And then sometimes all it takes is one incredible game for us to say, yes, whatever you make next is going to have my eyeballs on it. As disgusting and slimy as that sounds.
So that's coming up after gaming goals. But as always, we're going to start with gaming.
Try doing that without sounding drunk. We're going to gaming goals. It's just one big slurred word. You're a voiceover artist. Be professional. What? You're not getting paid for this? Okay, you don't have to be too professional. Just put your tie on.
I don't wear a tie for work.
Oh, that's what I mean. You are uncultured and unprofessional.
I'm not Annie Hall.
You should be in your pajamas with a tie on.
Oh, if you do want us to sound like we are drunk or off our heads, you should do the podcast at half speed, everyone. It is really funny. Or any podcast for that matter. So funny. Now that I've given you that little nugget, let me say again, it is time for gaming goals.
Yes.
Yeah, gaming goals.
Still sound... Did you have a little something before this podcast?
No.
Because, yeah, it's all right. I will blame the fever.
It's hard to enunciate when your nose is blocked.
I'll just jam a pencil up there.
Ew.
That's not actually recommended.
No.
You didn't hear that from me. Gaming goals time. What have we been playing in the past week? At the end of each episode, we set challenges and tasks and milestones that we are trying to achieve in our video games. Do we hit them? Do we miss them? Do we completely ignore them? Sometimes that happens. But this week, for me in particular, I have been very productive. I have beaten 2 games off my to-do list, and they were both bloody fantastic.
Which ones were they?
Chrono Trigger on the Nintendo DS. Finally, after all these years, I have achieved my destiny, and I have beaten Chrono Trigger. And I may just say it may not be the last time I ever play Chrono Trigger, because it's a game with replay value as a JRPG.
Nice. So did you have a favourite bit?
The favourite bit. It lived up to the hype throughout most of the story. It's the sort of game where I didn't realise I was approaching the end of the game. It felt far too quick until I realised everything that had happened in the game up until that point. And I was just enjoying it so much that the 24 hours just went pop. Into nothingness. Pop. The ending was quite emotional, and it may have joined the short list of video games that have made me cry. Actual tear. Can you guess what any of the others are, out of curiosity?
That have made you cry? The Last of Us?
Yeah, I'd put that in there.
Sonic Boom, Rise of Lyric.
Well, that did break my heart, but it's not a tear. You should think of at least one of them is a game that, or 2 of them are games that you've played that made you cry as well. So
I cry easily. That's not like a yardstick to use. Like,
Okay.
that doesn't help me narrow it down.
I'll be manly. I'll admit it. Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy 15 in particular, towards the end.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say spoilers, so I'm
I'm just making sure you know what I'm talking about.
I know.
You specifically. Not you, the general public, because that's a flaw of the English language. I'm talking about you, my wife. I've said Final Fantasy. Persona 4, Golden.
Yes.
And, yeah, that might be about it. But, no, Trails of Cold Steel, 2, in particular. That also did it to me. So, yes, lots of tears have been shed, but this was more just like a goodbye to the friends, sort of farewell experience. So that's not what you want. I like my friends to stay my friends, not goodbye, I'm never going to see you again, friends. Call me fickle, but I just like my friends to be there when I need them.
That would be like the opposite of fickle, right?
Yes, I suppose it would be. I'm unfickle.
There you go.
I'm selfish.
Clingy, needy.
Chrono Trigger was excellent, and I have promptly moved on and have started playing something else, but I'll talk about that a little bit, because the other game that I did beat this week, the phenomenal and current number one game on my 2019 list, unexpectedly, out of nowhere, The Outer Wilds, a game that I did not know what it even was, and I saw its name on the Game Pass list of games. My brain thought of The Outer Worlds, which is coming out soon, thanks to Obsidian Entertainment.
Yep.
And I thought, wait, what is that? That shouldn't be out yet. And then I'm like, oh, wait, it's Wilds, not Worlds. Wait, what is The Outer Wilds? I don't know what The Outer Wilds is. I've never heard of this. Look it up. Looks good. I give it a shot. I download it. I play it. I'm in love. I am in love.
Should I be worried? Should I be jealous?
Well, there are some good-looking planets in that solar system. Let me just say that.
That reminds me of, is it Futurama? That planet that's like sentient.
Anytime you suggest Futurama, I'm always hesitant for you to specify which gross joke we're trying to pinpoint on that one.
Isn't it like, it's got like all the, it almost looks like a Tangela. But it's like a planet.
Ugh. Yeah, I don't want to think about that anymore. The Outer Wilds was incredible. The self-discovery, the exploration. Now I'm the one sounding drunk. The exploration of this solar system, a smallish solar system, 6 to 8 things to explore. But even up to my last session, I was having epiphanies as far as discovering new things that I could do. I thought I had done everything there was to do on one of the planets, Giants Deep, the watery, cyclone planet. And then I accidentally warped there from another planet and went, wait, I haven't been on this island before. And then I thought I was done with that planet completely. And there was a whole new thing. And then I kept checking my log of my hints and things like that, and there were references to the high energy lab here and there on one of the planets. And I thought, yeah, I've done that. Surely I've done that. I've done the high energy lab, right? And then I decided, wait, maybe I haven't. So I go and check it out. And I'd played this game for 28 hours and had not actually been to the high energy lab. I just thought I had because it was referred to so much. And when I went in there, I'm like, I've definitely not been in here. Every time I thought I was done with something in this game, there was a new thought. I'd be at work, 24 hours after having played the game, and suddenly a thought pops in my mind. Wait, if that comet gets close to the sun, it's made mostly of ice. Would that melt anything? Maybe it will. I'll have to check that out when I get home. And just these thoughts, just constant ideas and suggestions and theories of what might work, what might not. But, that was incredible. And I did it without a guide. Everything I did in the game, I did without a guide. After I beat it, I looked. I did miss a little something in the game. One of the characters I just didn't understand even existed. I may have mucked up a couple of other things, like burning too many marshmallows, which did trigger an achievement. That's a shame. Carcinogenics, delicious. But overall, the tension I had at the end of this game, there's a time loop, so death really has no power. If you muck up, and boy, howdy did I muck up. I set my autopilot to go to a comet, which is rotating around the place, and I went to go fill up my drink, and I came back just in time to see that the comet had gone behind the sun. My autopilot was still on course to go straight to the comet, driving me straight into the sun. That's a problem. Another time where I had set the autopilot incorrectly, and you saw this as I was checking my social media during the flight, suddenly looked up and started screaming, no, brakes, 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 brakes! There's no brakes in space. You are floating through the vast nothingness. You can activate your reverse thrusters. It's going to take a little while to reverse that
momentum.
Yes. So I may have destroyed my spaceship that way. So there were a few delays towards the end of the game, but I don't want to ruin too much about it. But the end game, that fear of death was placed back into it because I wasn't sure if I would muck up so severely that I would ruin the time loop. Now that's scary. In a game that has desensitized me to death and failure, to have that suddenly reinstated and think, this is it, you cannot muck this up, do not die, while still having the ticking time limit of 22 minutes to achieve your mission. The music got more epic in that last segment. It was a grand finale, and then the ending happened, and I'm so darn confused. A slightly confusing end. I won't say that it ruined the experience. It was just a little brain scratching. Wait, brain scratching? Head scratching. Don't scratch your brains. Maybe if you use that pencil up the nose, I said before, you may be able to scratch the brain. But for a game that came out of absolutely nowhere for me, I have been thinking of the Outer Wilds most of the time I've been away from it, and that is a sign that it is a top quality game.
So, still your best game of this year?
Best game I have played in 2019. If you have not played The Outer Wilds, stay as spoiler-free as you possibly can. I have a friend who watched a playthrough on YouTube, and that is not how you experience a game like this. Don't do it! Makes me so angry.
You said after that you had finished playing Chrono Trigger, you started something else. What was that?
I leapt straight into Persona Q2, a sort of a mashup game of the Persona series using the Etrian Odyssey gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
You are a first-person viewpoint going through dungeons. You actually map it out yourself on the bottom screen of the DS. I actually quite like that. Some people don't, but I feel like it's fun. And the fact that once you start a fight, you can always just go back and draw walls and things. I like that you chart your own map in that game. I feel like a cartographer using a stylus and a computer. So, very high-tech cartographer. None of this parchment and ink quills. Thank you very much. However, this game, Persona Q2, is bizarrely difficult. I'm playing on easy difficulty because when I played Persona Q1, I made that mistake and played on normal and got trucked by pretty much every boss imaginable.
Yep.
I'm playing on easy and failed at the first world boss. And that is disheartening when you are playing on an easier difficulty level.
Yes.
Now, thankfully, I did do a little bit of grinding to get one skill in particular, a group heal, and was able to use my brain a little more after scratching it to coordinate my tactics a little better, have somebody be the tank and use a skill called Line Guard to defend everyone, to take all the hits, so that way not everyone's being hit and obliterated, just poor Ryuji Sakamoto. Who better to use the joy tank?
Mm-hmm.
Persona Q2 focuses on the Phantom Thieves of Persona 5, mixed in with Persona 3, Persona 3 Portable, female protagonist, Persona 4. They're all coming together in a grand old what-if sort of side story.
Mm-hmm.
It
Fever
may
dream.
it may be canonical, it may not be canonical. Who knows? But it's fun, it's fan service. They're all drawn in a little chibi style, which is cute as.
Yes.
They're all adorable. The only problem with the immersion is the dialogue is Japanese for this one.
Yeah, it didn't get dubbed this time around.
Now, if you have listened to this podcast for any stretch of any stretch of chimes on a clock, or maybe even like one of those little wind chimes, trying to recover. Ugh. Jem and I are no strangers to playing games with Japanese dialogue. We have no issues with that. The only problem I have is that with a series like Persona that we have played with an English dub for so long,
Yeah.
when you get an entry that when they're producing it, creating it, developing it, and they say, oh, it's on the 3DS, it's coming out late, only really Persona fans are going to buy this on the 3DS in the West. It's not going to sell that much. We won't bother with the dub. That's sad.
Yeah.
I would have preferred they spend the extra money, and even if they didn't make the profits back to the same degree, at least the fan base would be more in love with your property,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've also experienced this with Persona with one of the anime series.
Mm-hmm.
The Persona 4 anime was dubbed. The next part,
The golden.
Persona 4 The Golden animation, was not dubbed. And we've had that with other anime series as well, like The Mysterious Life of Psyche K on Netflix. First season dubbed, second and third not dubbed. I don't mind if things are not dubbed, but when you jump from one to the other, the voices sound weird. Some of the acting is different. You just sort of lose the characters a little bit, and it takes a while for you to get back into it.
Yeah.
And that is what I have experienced with Persona Q2. I love the game. I love the characters. It has still made me laugh. It's still been fun. Theodore's in a popcorn outfit. That's a plus. But, yeah, just a little bit of immersion broken there. I've beaten the first entire world. About to move on. It's all movie-based theatre. Oh, it's fun. It's fun.
You can kind of flip it the other way too, that if you've experienced something in Japanese first and then heard it again in the English and you loved the Japanese, then anything, even if the performance in English is done really well, it would still sound wrong to you because you're used to the Japanese.
Yeah.
So...
Well, I played through Sekiro with Japanese audio because I thought, why not? It might be more authentic. It's set in, Japan land, and... My good buddy the Falcon played with the English dub, so then he came to play at my place on my PlayStation with Japanese audio, and he kept going to quote things because he'd already beaten the game twice or whatever, and he's like, oh, no, I can't quote this. So, fun little side story there. But we've also had more developments in the Adventures of Brendo and Jem in Divinity Original Sin.
Do-do-do. We've made some significant story progress this past week. I don't want to spoil anything. I mean, it's not a relatively new game by any stretch, but I still don't want to.
We play so many plot-heavy games. It's like, gaming goals, what have you done? I can't tell you. But we've been having a lot of fun with the co-op RPG Divinity Original Sin. We've been more on the same page recently than we have been in the past.
In the decision-making aspects. We're discovering more about our true identities as far as the story goes. I feel like I can say that.
And we bought a troll a friend. Don't ask about the specifics of what line of work the friend works in, but we did pay for her to go talk to him. This game started off so normal, and we had magic, we have goblins, your standard fantasy game. And in our recent sessions, we have been attacked by walking snowmen, mechanical chickens. I got hit on by an Iron Maiden. And not just like a robot lady, but we're talking about the torture device, the Iron Maiden, the encasing shell with spikes on the inside.
That was
gross. She was proposing that I hop in and we would experience all sorts of fun. And I did not. I ended up killing her. It was a good choice. I'm so glad I didn't climb into that Iron Maiden. She did make a very...
It had me worried because it was almost like the way she was saying it was hypnotic. And I'm like, don't you dare make another dumb decision on our behalf, mister. I will not help you if you die again. The amount of times you set off mines or stepped into like rooms, like triggered traps and things, and we don't, all right, let's load that save again. Brendo's dead.
Okay, look, that's for two reasons. A, I'm the frontline trooper. I'm playing with the heavy armor, the shield. I'm taking the focus so you, the squishier mage, can control the battlefield as you wish.
It's not just in... This isn't not talking about fights. This is just in general walking here to there.
That's just the setup. I'm in the front, and you're the one with the high perception to look out for traps and trigger plates and explosive mines. And I'm the one who thinks, oh yeah, well, I can see them. I could see this one and this one, so I'll run between them. Boom. No, there was the third one. My guy was just too dim-witted to see what it was. We all have our strengths and weaknesses.
There was a whole corridor. You're like, oh, there's mines here. Oh, wait, they've just disappeared. And then...
Come help me. Yes.
Has made for some humorous moments.
We have had some very humorous moments and some embarrassing moments and thankfully not too many frustrating moments, especially in a game like this where combat can take a while.
Yes.
We just had one fight that we don't think we were actually supposed to even try to win through brute force. And we may have tried for like 12 minutes before realising we'd taken off a quarter of the enemy's health. And we're like, yeah, I don't think we're supposed to do this way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been fun. Do you think we'll roll straight into the sequel or will we give it a break? Or have you got no interest in the sequel?
That really depends on how long it takes us to finish this one and what else is on our radar. We're trying to get a lot of other stuff done too, from the G1 that's on at the moment, which has been neglected a bit.
New Japan Pro Wrestling is sort of a side interest of mine. Their big tournament is on at the moment. Something like 19 shows in 35 days.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of time investment, so
yes,
does get in the way. So we've got that. We're trying to do this enormous cooperative game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm astonished that we have had any time for any other video games at all.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow I've managed to beat 2 this week, so I'm doing something right.
Well, you've been neglecting the wrestling aspect. I think that's been the biggest sacrifice that you've made.
Yeah, other sacrifices, I've been neglecting chores, other responsibilities. I've been neglecting a lot for the greater good. Of bonding with my wife over a video game. That's what real love is.
Well, this week for me, I haven't really played much else with planning a surprise party, which thankfully went off without a hitch, so I'm relieved that that's done now.
And that's gaming goals. So.
That pretty much is, for me anyway. I have wanted to play other stuff, but it's just been nutso, and now the craziness of the last few weeks has caught up with me. I'm feeling under the weather, which hopefully means that I'm in the mood to read, which means visual novels. So, the perfect kind of game to play while lying in bed. We'll get to that at the end of the episode, though.
Excellent. Well, up next, then, we are going to be talking about our favourite video game developers. These are the sort of people that if a game is coming out from that studio, it's got our attention before we even see anything about it. Which ones hit? Which ones miss? Which ones are we in love with? Which ones have lost our love? Let's find out right after this.
Share the love. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Gaming Lovers.
So this past week, we received a tweet from Narcus, who tweets us on a semi-regular basis, but this time he had quite the question for us.
Quite the question.
One that sparked a very long discussion that we're like, well, hey, hang on, this is the kind of thing that we should be doing in the booth rather than wasting all our energy in the car going back and forth arguing.
All we ever seem to do is argue when we get pitched these questions. We're just disagreeing in a heated manner while still reinforcing our own independent thoughts and trying to align our wills into a single married blob.
I think for the most part, though, we agree on a lot of these, of the top developers. So the main question was if you could play games only made by one developer for the rest of our lives, what would it be? So basically, what is your favourite developer of all time kind of thing? Locked in.
Which molecule in your body is your favourite?
Choose a child, Sophie. So let's have a look at some of the best and the worst and the up-and-coming developers, and we will let you know our favourites. I don't think we could really pick just one.
Yeah, 2 things. If you have favourite developers, we would love to hear from you on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever you can get a hold of us. There's
TheGamingLovers.com.
plethora of options. A plethora. And secondly, if you have anything you would like us to try and talk about, argue about, fight you on, dig our heels in stubbornly on, or any games that you suggest that we might want to try in the future, please reach out, contact us. This is us and you. We're all a big family, us and you.
We are all gaming lovers.
That's right.
Yeah.
So how do you even start when you think about developers? I thought this would be the easiest thing in the world to answer. 1 or 2 names popped in my head and I thought, yeah, that's a guarantee. Sure, I'd play those for the rest of my life. But then I thought, no, but wait, so many more games I love. I've been playing games for decades. I can't just choose one. And so, sadly, there are some developers that we were so in love with. We would defend to the end of the earth. But, yeah, they've either gone off the rails recently, it's been a steady decline for a long time, or just they have too many misses and not enough hits.
Yeah.
That we can't put our undying support behind. So where would you like to start on that field?
Oh, I guess we'll start with the most obvious one for me. Get it out of the way. BioWare.
BioWare.
Used to be the undying love category. Used to be, yes, they can do no wrong. They had so many hits, so many greats, and games that I still go back to play, from Dragon Age, Mass Effect. You look at Jade Empire, Knights of the Old Republic,
Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights.
Yes.
There is so many great gaming memories that I have with BioWare games. Just not in the past 5 years.
No. I mean, depending on where you stand as far as BioWare games, some people say they started slipping downhill from Mass Effect 3, Dragon Age 2 kind of era. Some, like myself, kind of think it was more like the really hitting the fan when Andromeda came out.
Mass Effect Andromeda was not well received.
No.
That was followed up by Anthem, which was really not well received. And then it launched and it was really not well received.
Yes.
There are still some people that love these games. Anything that we state either a fact or an opinion on, you may have a different point of view. Maybe you love Anthem, maybe you think they're hitting what they should be hitting, but for us, ooh, no.
It just felt like, a country music star that wanted to become a rapper. And everyone's like, but you're a really good country music star. We don't want to hear you rap. So
just look at the trend. Baldur's Gate, great RPG. Knights of the Old Republic, great RPG. Neverwinter Nights, great RPG. Jade Empire, great RPG. Mass Effect, great RPG. Dragon Age, great RPG. Anthem, team-based shooter. Sometimes all we want from a developer is to stick with what you are great at.
Yes.
Now, there are some developers that we'll mention later on that them shifting was a great thing.
Yes.
So it's not a cut and dry, never change your style.
No, not at all. And there are things that BioWare has tweaked over the years, and they improved and they worked to the point where other gaming developers were copying what they were doing in their games to make them successful. Things like the dialogue wheel got poached by pretty much everybody since that came out with Mass Effect 1. They made some groundbreaking things. It's such a shame that they're featured on this list of that they've, kind of gone.
Well, we just hope
Instead
it's
of
just a
the
rocky patch in
Yes.
the relationship.
Yes, there might be recovery. Look, I still love some aspects of Andromeda, and I didn't Anthem had promise. There's still signs that they're great storytellers, but it's just heartbreaking to see such a beloved developer struggle so much. And I think a key part of that too is a lot of the people that made BioWare great in the early days have all gone their separate ways, and it's not really the same people making these games anymore.
That's what makes this so interesting, is that you can have the same development studio, but if the talent is gone, or if talent from a different studio moves into a not so great studio and it rises from the ashes, it's a constantly moving industry.
Yeah, it's always in flux.
Now that we've done your contractually obligated BioWare talk, we can tick
It's
that
done. We
off.
can move on.
But yes, BioWare was definitely on the list for me as well, just because of the great history.
Because I used to, a few years ago, if people asked me what my favourite gaming developer was, the easiest answer in the world was to say BioWare. And now it hurts me that I can't say that.
And I'm probably sure you could play nothing but BioWare games for the rest of your life. So technically,
I still do.
technically, I think we have our answer there. For myself as well, two of my all-time favorite video game franchises came out of the same developer, and at the moment, I can't stand anything they do. Konami, responsible for such great things as Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid, two of my very, very favorite series. I have so many great memories with that. Both those franchises, Silent Hill's been abandoned completely. Metal Gear Solid has been They took its dying...
Cannibalized.
They took its corpse after Kojima left and basically painted it up with Metal Gear Survive and said, here we go, another Metal Gear game.
I'm so glad that it flopped in such a horrific way. It was almost like the gaming community flipping Konami off after what they did to Kojima.
Yeah, so I cannot put my support behind Konami now. Would have back, especially in like the PS1, PS2 era, where they were hitting full steam ahead, nothing to worry about then. But now I'm like, no, thank you. Similar to Rare. Rareware.
It's hurting me hearing all these things of like these great, well, once great developers and just, and it scares me. I'm like, I don't want all the other ones that we love currently to fall into these same pitfalls,
Rareware, Nintendo 64, they go together like peanut butter and jelly. That's for our American listeners. Here we call it jam.
Oh, no, Vegemite and cheese. Thank you very much.
Okay, they go together like Vegemite and cheese. That's delicious, actually. Don't mock it till you try it. And as a side note, I'm very defensive about this. If you try Vegemite, try it legitimately properly. Don't try a big giant chunk. Get some toast, melt some butter on that hot bread, and put just a thin layer of Vegemite, and it will be absolutely
and
delicious.
Cheese. You combine it with cheese, and the flavors offset each other just perfectly.
So on that note, Rareware and the Nintendo 64, there's so many great Rare games on the Nintendo 64. Can you mention any off the top of your head?
Banjo-Kazooie.
Ding.
GoldenEye.
Perfect Dark. Donkey Kong 64. Conker's Bad Fur Day. Jet Force Gemini. So many great games. And like we said with BioWare, some of the talent did not go with them full term. Some of them left. Some of them were hanging around after Microsoft purchased them, which we thought, oh, well, we're going to have Rare quality games on the Xbox. No. We had a series of substandard games like Grabbed by the Ghoulies, Banjo and Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. They just have not hit their full steam. Viva Pinata, to be fair, I bloody adore. But it is the exception to the rule that since Microsoft purchased Rare, they have not been the same Rare they once were.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is one of the big themes that we're seeing a lot with these studios and developers is that it's not just the name, it is the team, it's the people that make them great. Mm-hmm. So if the people change, you can't expect the games to stay the same quality, to have the same feel, because new people will bring new things to it, which can be good or bad.
Yeah. Now, sadly, another one I have to put on the I love them, but with conditions. Can you guess what you think that would be?
Sega.
Got it in one. I've been a long-term Sega fan. They have had some absolute stinkers in their library over the years, mostly to do with a certain blue hedgehog. But over the decades, I've enjoyed the Sonic the Hedgehog series. I've enjoyed Echo the Dolphin. I've enjoyed Crazy Taxi. I've enjoyed Jet Set freaking Radio. One of my top games. And that wasn't just remixing the track. I'm seriously would put Jet Set Radio among the top of my video game single entries ever because it was so darn good. And in more recent times, the Yakuza series from Sega. So they have had some good ones, but
it's just too patchy to...
Far too patchy for me to put undying support of the greatest video game developers ever.
Much like their consoles, really.
Oh, don't start on their consoles. They made...
But they've had hits and misses, you know what I'm saying? So there is a pattern and a theming with both the games and the consoles.
And some of their misses are so beloved, they should not have been misses. I will stand by the fact that the Dreamcast is one of my favourite consoles ever, and it was an abysmal failure.
Sometimes it's more about timing and the way something's marketed than the actual materials itself.
I try not to sit in what-if scenarios, but what if they had have just released consoles properly over that decade span and they were still around, fighting Nintendo tooth and nail again? Oh, those were the days.
Well, Nintendo has other competition now.
You're listening to the Gaming Lovers Podcast. Want to join the conversation? visit thegaminglovers.com. Record your comment or question by clicking on the button on the right-hand side. And you could be featured in the next podcast.
All right, let's move on from the depressing news of game companies that don't quite live up to the hype all the time, 100% full steam ahead. What do we have our eyes on? Like, what comes to mind when you think of the greatest video game developers that you've experienced?
All right, so if we've gone from the bad to the good.
We're going to the good.
There's so many. For me, the first one that pops into my head is Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
I love
No surprise there.
so many Atlas games. Persona series especially is the one that jumps into my head. So when I think of my beloved games and just how many quality games, even to the point where like spin-off dancing games are
Yes.
considered some of my favorite games, like that blows my mind. So they are one of the top for me.
Yeah, when you think of your favorite video game franchises, if there's multiple entries that are good, that's a good start.
Absolutely.
To say that the developer has a history that they can keep hitting home run after home run.
Mm-hmm.
You factor in the spin-offs of that Persona series.
Yeah.
And we love all of them, whether
Yes.
they be a fighting game or a dancing game or a spin-off like
Cheapy
Persona
game.
Q2. But there's also other games that they have made that I have also adored, like Catherine
Yeah.
and Trauma Center. That's not a Persona game. It's a medical game on the Wii. But I still enjoyed the story. I still enjoyed the gameplay. There's also a 2D scrolling beat-em-up called Dragon's Crown on the PS Vita that I absolutely adored. Atlas. If there's a new game and Atlas's name is on that cover. Now, it becomes a bit foggier because they also publish games for other developers.
Yes.
But if Atlas is there, my eyes get drawn to it.
Mm-hmm. It's
Any
like,
ti-
ooh, what is this now?
Anytime Atlas is got a stamp on something, it has my attention. Anytime anything Persona related comes out, it has my attention.
It's pre-ordered.
dare
One of the rare things that would.
Okay, we actually have pre-ordered the Persona 5 and 3 Dancing Games Ultimate Edition.
Well, we wanted the special editions, but also we nearly didn't get one of the Persona games because few got released in Australia that ever since then we're like, okay, we need to pre-order them to make sure that we don't miss out on them.
Yeah, it can happen.
Yes.
It can happen. Now, I'm going to put forward an interesting one. As the mirror image, basically, of Konami back in the PS1 days. We had Konami with Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid, and I had a game company on the same level. I thought they were basically equals at the time, and it's staggering to see how different they are all these years later. And that's Capcom.
Oh.
Now, Capcom have also made some of my favourite series, like Resident Evil,
Yeah.
which has had its rocky patches, but is kicking full goals ahead steam. I don't know what mixed
They've
metaphor
had
I was
some really
going for
good
there.
longevity.
They certainly have. Ace Attorney,
Yes.
possibly my favourite plot-based game, where it's the full attention is to the plot, not so much the gameplay. Ace Attorney is one of my all-time favourites. They've also made Dino Crisis back in the PS1 days. They've also made Dead Rising, which has been a constant mainstay in my enjoyment the past few years.
One of probably the most fun zombie apocalypse games. Those series.
And the fact that Konami at the moment is so down in the dumps and the fan thoughts behind them is so low. Capcom have had the year of all years this year with Resident Evil 2 Remake, Devil May Cry 5,
Yes.
Monster Hunter World being
Yes.
their most best-selling game ever or whatever it is. It's incredible to see the success that Capcom have had all these years later. They got so many games under their umbrella and so many of them are good.
Yeah. I almost feel guilty for not knowing, just how many great games Capcom has made over the years. I'm more familiar with so many other developers, but when you brought that up, I'm like, oh yeah, they've made so many great games.
Well, they do make a lot of great ones, but they're not necessarily things that do appeal to you. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You're not a Street Fighter fanatic. You're not a Mega Man fan. You don't really like the Resident Evil Dead Rising zombie fests. So
I can still respect that they're good games from a distance.
From a distance.
From a safe, sniping distance.
Now, I'm going to do another developer right now, and this may cause some controversy because oftentimes their games are not very well received. But for my good self, they have been a mainstay of my gaming library for over a decade at this point, and every time they release anything, I'm all over it like a fat kid on a cake. David Cage and Quantum Dream make the premiere, I suppose, level of interactive narrative adventures, which some people call interactive movies.
Yeah.
I find that to be a disservice of that quality of game.
Especially now that more games are borrowing from that genre, really, of gaming. More and more games have those elements in it. So it's kind of like, well, where's that line then?
Ever since myself and my good buddy the Falcon discovered a game called Fahrenheit on the original Xbox, also known as Indigo Prophecy, outside of the European countries, I suppose, that game was our first taste at that sort of interactive movie game, and it was fantastic. It had a great plot the first half of the game. The second half, it fell apart. Ignore that. Followed up by Heavy Rain, which I absolutely adored. Beyond Two Souls, a bit more flawed, but I enjoyed it so much.
Still an interesting story.
And then Detroit Become Human blew my mind as far as the expectations I had for it.
Yeah.
I love that style of games, and they have a track record with me personally that whatever they release next is almost a guaranteed buy. Now, we said before that some developers shouldn't go outside of their wheelhouse. I would not want any other game type. I don't want a stealth action sniper mission made by Quantum Dream. I want another interactive narrative with emotions and feelings and stories and consequences to choices.
And pure terror and tension like no other.
There are a few games that made me feel the amount of tension that I had playing Detroit Become Human in particular. Now, two other game developers that are sort of similar. One of them good, one of them not so good. The good side of things, supermassive games which hit a absolute home run with me with Until Dawn, and to a lesser degree, the flawed but still enjoyable Hidden Agenda. They have a new game coming out, which is another spooky sort of game that plays very similar to the Quantum Dream games, and I'm going to get that day one, guaranteed. Play it through with my good buddy the Falcon, and then watch you squirm as you play it as well. It's a horror game set at sea.
No.
What more could you like?
No, what more could I hate, I think is the word you're looking for.
And one that I forgot to mention during the game developers that sort of lost their way, another interactive narrative series that I loved so much, anything from Telltale Games. When I first played The Walking Dead, I'd played Sam and Max and a few other ones they'd worked on, but that was sort of hit and miss, bit of fun, bit of not so much fun, nothing essential. The Walking Dead was essential gaming. The Walking Dead Season 2, I wanted more.
And you got more.
The Wolf Among Us. And then at that point, it got to that sort of mindset that whatever you make, I will be buying.
Yeah.
Tales from the Borderlands. Got it.
So good.
Thank you very much. And then more Walking Dead came out. There was a Game of Thrones one. I've never seen a Game of Thrones episode before, and I included that in the bundle. And then poor Telltale fell apart. They stretched themselves too thin, mismanaged into oblivion. They're gone. Bye-bye. But for a stretch there, everything they released, I wanted to play.
Yeah. I don't know if we can... I don't know. That's kind of got an asterisk next to it because they unfortunately did fizzle out a little bit.
I meant to put them earlier when we were talking about bad ones. But
that said, like many others on that list, they did inspire so many other developers. You look at the series of Life is Strange, and they have such a similar vibe to those Telltale games.
Yeah.
So, hopefully some of those who perhaps were at Telltale have found good homes in other studios and developers and stuff. So
supposedly Life is Strange Season 2, whatever they want to call it, Life is Strange 2, is pretty darn good.
It looks
Pretty
great.
darn good.
Let's have our hearts broken all over again. Here we go. One that could be kind of controversial on this list because they're just so quirky.
Following up one controversy with another.
Yes.
Goodness.
Ubisoft. Maybe because they're just so controversial like E3.
It almost feels like an essential answer to this question, though, because Ubisoft
do everything.
They do everything.
Not everything is great, but they pretty much cover all the bases, but they have released a lot of solid entries, and I think have had a few misses, but I would say the majority of what they do is well above the average mark.
Yeah, for sure. And they have been doing so for years.
Yeah.
All the Tom Clancy games fit under the Ubisoft umbrella, from your shooters like Rainbow Six through to one of my personal favourite series, Splinter Cell. Perfectly paced action, stealth, whatever you want,
Yes.
Ubisoft can do it.
And Assassin's Creed,
Of
which
course.
had a little bit of a dip. I think it was almost like too much of this because it was so popular in its early days. It was such a good thing that they're like, yes, we've hit on a good thing. And like every year there was a new one. And then it was like, whoa, too much. We're overdosing on Assassin's Creed. And they've like kind of relaunched it a bit. And I absolutely adored playing Odyssey. So it's nice to see that they haven't lost their touch and that they're willing to adapt. And that's the mark of where some change is good, but then there might be like fans that love the original Assassin's Creed that really hate that change. So I don't know. That's where it's controversial.
Well, there's no consequence, because you said controversy, I've said consequence. It's no coincidence that the series fatigue set in just when they elevated their release schedule. Instead of doing one Assassin's Creed game a year, they did two. Assassin's Creed Rogue, Assassin's Creed Unity. Wait, why is everyone stopping playing Assassin's Creed? We're giving you more. Don't you want more? Eat it. Play your Assassin's Creed and like it.
It's like in Matilda. Keep eating that chocolate cake, kid. That scene makes me feel so sick.
Now, not only those series, but we've got other things like Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs 3, Legion, whatever it's called, looks awesome.
With the granny.
You're
I love
looking
her so
forward to
much.
playing as the old lady.
Is it Helen? I love her so much.
That was how you release a trailer for a new game.
Oh, totally.
But even with things outside the box, that the sign of a good developer is that when there's an idea that you think is going to flop and then they excel with it, and you see that Mario and the Rabbids are combining in a game that plays like XCOM, this can never work. Oh, it's made by Ubisoft. They are in for trouble with this one. It's going to flop so badly.
And it did amazing.
And it was an incredible game. Mario and Rabbids, Kingdom Battle. I had such a good time with that game, and I felt remorse for ever mocking it.
It was such a beautiful sweet spot. It felt like Mario had finally matured with the audience that grew up playing Mario games.
Matured with Rabbids that act like 2-year-olds.
But, you know, like, obviously, like, it's got that silly humor, but there is a lot of hidden stuff, like, very subtle stuff. It's kind of like going to see a Pixar film or a DreamWorks film at the movies with your kids. There's stuff for them, there's stuff for you, and it blended really well. So I found it really refreshing and rejuvenating, I think, for Mario. What could have been a risk and could have hurt, like, that brand actually added to it.
Yeah.
So that's another plus for Ubisoft.
Now, I'm sure Ubisoft has different development studios in different places around the world. Another company that does the same, which also always, guaranteed, has eyes on every product they release, is Rockstar.
Yes.
When you have mega series like Grand Theft Auto and
Red Dead
Redemption, Red Dead Redemption 2, I believe every studio of Rockstar worked on Red Dead Redemption 2. They pooled their collective resources to make an incredible game.
Yep.
One I'm still partway through experiencing, taking a small break while I dabble around in the Xbox Game Pass, but I want to go back to that sooner rather than later. And when you think of the staggering amount of sales that Grand Theft Auto 5 did on its launch day, absolutely dwarfs anything that, like, the entire movie industry does over several years.
Yep.
They have the Midas touch. If anything has the Midas touch in the gaming world, it's Rockstar Games.
Absolutely.
as soon as they release a trailer for their new project, presumably a new Grand Theft Auto, it will sell millions. It is not in doubt because they have such a good track record and you can get lost in their game for hours.
Absolutely. They've got a rabid fan base and one that they've not disappointed, really.
Do you say rabbits again? Are they back?
Yeah, there would be an interesting crossover right there. Maybe a little Easter egg or like skins. But yeah, there's one developer that unless they really stuff up or something happens like really catastrophic behind the scenes, their future is looking pretty solid and bright.
Yep.
Going back to the original question that Narcus asked us on Twitter, like which developer would you choose to like play solely for the rest of your life?
Yep.
I think there's one that specializes in making games that you could literally play for the rest of your life and still feel like you've never actually finished the game. Bethesda with like the Elder Scrolls and Fallout, these huge open worlds. And especially now as they keep adding with the online expansion ones for Fallout 76 and the like. I could literally play those forever and feel like I've never finished.
Even if you played something like a Skyrim and did everything there was to do, you could quite easily do it all over again with a completely different character, in a completely different order, doing different results for different missions.
Totally.
It's been very easy for me to get lost in those games for months at a time.
Yes.
I'm sure I could escalate that to years if I wanted to.
See, you come down on me for playing so much Dragon Age, right? But I can play Origins in like 20 hours and do a full campaign. I would do like the tiniest slither of Skyrim in that time. So really, I've done many repeats of what would just be one whole campaign in Skyrim.
I still have the mark of shame that I've never actually beaten Skyrim after 150 hours over 3 characters or whatever. Never done the main story. Don't ask me for plot spoilers. I wouldn't have a clue.
I think that's one I kind of got distracted in mid-game as well. Because I get so distracted by little side quests that like I forget the main story. And then I get lost or stuck somewhere and then distracted by a new game. That happens so much to us. Oh, look, a new game.
Yeah, it's my weakness in life for sure. Oh, there's a sale on.
It's like a kid with a new toy. It essentially is a new toy. It's just digital. But yeah.
Everyone makes a joke of how EB Games is always having sales. They don't think of the mental impact that has on me.
Or the financial impact.
My wallet. Here's an oddball developer for you. Spike Chunsoft. They have quite the variety of mediocre titles available. Let's not pump them up too much. But if you can release 2 separate trilogies that are in my top ever video game experiences, that's got to count for something.
Absolutely.
And Spike Chunsoft, on the PS Vita in particular, the Danganronpa series. And
sorry.
Possibly my all-time favourite story in a video game over 3 games, Zero Escape. 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors, Virtue's Last Reward, and Zero Time Dilemma. Sure, not for everyone, but for myself personally, the perfect blend of puzzles, character development, mind-bending stories, plot twists, incredible moments. Oh, I love a good whodunit, and not only whodunit, but why done it, and how done it. Yeah, how done it. That's what Danganronpa is. It's a how done it, not so much a who done it. Yeah, I love them to pieces, and again, you get that little Spike Chunsoft stamp on anything. They do some publishing for other developers too. Yep. So sometimes it's a bit misleading. You're like, oh yes, a new... Oh, no, they didn't make it. But I love those games to death.
Could you imagine a crossover between the Zero Escape games and Danganronpa?
Well, you laugh, but the directors behind both of those series are working on one called the Somnium Files or whatever, where you play as like a detective who can go inside people's dreams to solve murders and crimes.
I wonder if Monokuma will make an appearance.
It's going to be crazy, and I will be buying that one. When you got the director of Zero Escape, the director of Danganronpa, and they're combining their efforts And boom, that's how you get Brendo to buy a game. Even if it's garbage, I'll enjoy it.
Well, we know that you like garbage because of all the Sonic games you've played, my love. So
That's a bit blunt and harsh and
true.
can't deny it. BioWare made Sonic Chronicles. Your favourite developer made a bad Sonic game too, so don't try and be all elite.
Hey, look, they were in the other list for a reason. They've fallen well off their perch, and that it's been acknowledged. So that's old news. One of the most recent ones, I think, for me to be kind of on the hit list of ones that I kind of keep an eye out for is Insomniac games. From older classics like Spyro, you got Ratchet and Clank, but then more recently Sunset Overdrive, and then the most amazing, top-selling superhero video game of all time, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man has bumped Batman Arkham Asylum off the top of the gargoyle he was sitting on and has taken that spot. Top stuff from Insomniac. Great game. Yeah. I absolutely adored playing through Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. And I still say one of the best cameos from Stan Lee in the video game there, so worth playing just for that.
Insomniac, in my mind, I always pair up with two other developers as well, just because of the PS2 era where they were all hitting full speed at the same time. Sucker Punch, who released at the same time that Insomniac had released Ratchet and Clank. Sucker Punch had released the Sly Cooper series, one of my all-time favourite platforming games. A little sneakiness, a little charm, a little wit, great platforming. I love those games to pieces. Yep. And Sucker Punch also responsible for what was at one point up there in my top ever series, Infamous.
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 Yes.
After a couple of pretty good entries, I greatly enjoyed the very first PS4 game I ever had, which was Infamous Second Son. Good work, Sucker Punch. So you've got Insomniac, you've got Sucker Punch, and the third piece of that trinity that I always pair together, and quite possibly a contender for my very favourite developer, Naughty Dog.
Yeah. I kind of associate them kind of similar to the level of Rockstar, where just they make it and it's awesome. I can't think of anything that I would say is a blemish on their record.
Especially in the past decade, they have hit home run after home run after home run. Incredible acting, gameplay, stories, worlds, crafting, graphics, everything.
Yeah.
Naughty Dog can do it all. They started off with their platformers on the PS1, Crash Bandicoot, of course, and then in the PS2 era, when you had Ratchet and Clank, you got Sly Cooper, and you got Jak and Daxter. All different styles of games, but they were all great at the same time, which helped the PS2 actually be quite a solid console for platforming action.
Yeah.
Then we get into the modern era and we have the Uncharted series and then the creme de la creme, The Last of Us.
Yep.
Naughty Dog have done exceptional. Everything that gets that Naughty Dog stamp. The Last of Us 2, possibly. When will that be coming out?
Supposed to be this year.
Yeah, we will see.
We'll see.
November, if it is going to come out, they would have to confirm it pretty soon to guarantee their sales would be what they want. But I don't mind if that makes it into the first quarter of next year. I'm happy to wait as long as they make a good game. And guess what? Naughty Dog always make good games. Now, what I love about Naughty Dog is that they've actually combined some of their franchises, because you could play Crash Bandicoot in Uncharted 4 and get Nathan Drake's opinion on Crash Bandicoot. And that just made me laugh so much. The fact that you could put your old game in a new game and have the character commenting on the other character.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just one of
so meta.
It's one of my favourite moments of the past couple of years of gaming. It just warmed my heart. I was chuckling on the couch, loving every second of it.
And it's actually surprisingly hard. It's one of those moments because you actually play and control it when Nathan or Elena are playing. And so you're like, oh no, I have to play this. How do you play this again? It's
You're
been too
playing
long.
as Nathan Drake in front of Elena. And it is just like when I try to play games in front of you and I want to make them entertaining, But I don't want to muck up. But I want to make them stylish and try to be cool and do this cool combo. And then I'll inevitably muck it up, fall down a hole. And that can happen as you're trying to impress your wife in this game too. So it struck home for me.
When Narcus sent us this question, he also shared with us, the developer, that he would choose to play forever, which was From Software.
Oh,
which
undeniably.
creates some incredibly rich and scary and very difficult worlds to play in that you love.
That's why you can play it for the rest of your life, because you keep getting stuck and you can't get anywhere in the game. No. I have had a great time with the From Software titles. I jumped on board late. Bloodborne was my first From Software game, and I'm not ashamed of that, because Bloodborne was incredible.
Yeah.
And since then, I have gone back and beaten Dark Souls 1. I got a little bit into Dark Souls 2 and then got distracted by something shiny. And I've also played Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, which was, again, amazing. From Software, if their name is put on a project, everyone gets excited. They start frothing at the mouth for more FromSoft games. The Elden Ring, which is coming out, George R.R. Martin and From Software.
It's an interesting combo.
Everyone's excited.
Yep.
Everyone's excited, and they have seen almost nothing of the actual game, except for a little teaser trailer.
And that's where sometimes recognizable names are important. It's a frustrating truth, but that is why sometimes, on movies and things like that, before they even have started filming or anything, they'll reveal actors that are, in talks or have just signed a contract to work on a project, because immediately it garners interest, and then they can guarantee a certain amount of money that's coming in to set the budget for the rest of the project. And when you combine an established developer with a really famous world-class author, that then I think will guarantee the money that they need to make this game. It's one of those kind of cliche things, but it definitely works in getting people's hype up for a project.
Yeah, just like Keanu Reeves and
Yes.
Cyberpunk.
Absolutely.
Is it time for me to probably say what would be number one if you want to go off critical ratings and customer satisfaction and track record and everything else
Longevity.
that factors in to what makes the greatest video game developer of all time?
If people haven't guessed at what it is, then have they played video games ever?
Coffee Stain Studios with Goat Simulator? No. Not quite. I'm talking about the big red itself, Nintendo.
Yes.
You think of the games, the quality of games that have come out of Nintendo's first-party developers. The Legend of Zelda series, the Super Mario series, Metroid, Yoshi, Mario Kart, Pikmin. There's so many. There is so many established long-term franchises that keep hitting 10s out of 10s, 9 out of 10s, high-quality review scores, high sales, high adorableness with some things. Every time they make a new Mario game, I think, this is the one that's going to fall flat. And it never does. Mario Odyssey has been an absolute blast to play through on the Nintendo Switch. You've got Luigi has his own series. Wario has his own series. There's so many different characters. You put them all together in other things, maybe not entirely developed by Nintendo, like Smash Brothers, but they set the foundation for these franchises and characters and gameplay and styles and everything else. The Legend of Zelda, in particular, the Breath of the Wild, is huge. You can easily spend 400 hours playing that and not discover everything there is to find in that world. And that's just one of a series that has consistently hit home runs after home runs throughout decades.
Yes, and that is the key across different platforms. They've been basically the king of portable gameplay as well.
Yep.
People have tried to knock them off that top of the mountain, and they have failed. Sorry, Vita. We love you. We truly do. But Nintendo has held firm to that, and it's interesting to see now with the Switch Lite that they've basically made their own 3DSs and stuff a bit redundant, really. They're phasing them out and making the Switch the best of both. So I don't think anyone could argue that, I mean, even if they don't necessarily love Nintendo games personally, they can't argue that Nintendo is basically the king of video games. I mean, they're having a whole section at Universal Studios in Japan named, Super Nintendo Land.
You are so excited for that.
I am.
One day we will go there
and
we will report on Super Nintendo Land.
Maybe not when it opens because that would be insanely busy, but after some of the hype has faded a little bit.
But in my mind, I mean, there are game developer companies that have done well over a few years or even a decade, but Nintendo have like 3 decades plus of history and success as far as video game development. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we can go past them as probably one of the most, if not the most successful developer of all time.
And getting better still. You think that they've tapped and run out of ideas and then they just keep delivering so many great things.
Then out comes Snipper Clips and I'm in love all over again with an idea that is so Nintendo but so great. Now, what about other things that we definitely have our eyes on? Now, they may not have the track records of some of these other companies that we've said, but for whatever reason, their most recent project enslaved our heart with adoration, and we have our eyes on whatever is next, no matter what it is. Do you have any examples of those?
Well, you'll find out after this.
Share the love. Follow us on Twitter at Brendo and Jem. That's BRENDOJEM.
Now, I will repeat my question. Are there any developers that may not have the track record, but have definitely got your eye on whatever they make next because of the goodwill they have built up, even if it's only just because of their most recent project?
Guerrilla Games.
Good choice.
I'd never really played Killzone. I saw you play Killzone, but I knew that had some pretty decent reviews. But I think it's pretty unanimous that the game that has put them on everyone's to-watch list, Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, one of my favourite games of the last decade.
I absolutely loved Horizon Zero Dawn, and whatever they make next, if it's a sequel, if it's another open world game of some sort. I did enjoy the Killzone games, but they were sort of just like another shooter. Like they weren't anything special. Horizon Zero Dawn was special.
Really was.
And with that much critical acclaim over that project, whatever they're working on next, which I do personally hope is a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn.
They left it very open-ended, and I'm like, okay, I have so many more questions. I would like to also see closure with certain relationships that kind of were teased at. Thank you, Guerrilla Games.
With their relationships.
Oh, come on. You got to realize, like, here in the West, not as many games cater to that aspect of female gaming like they do in Japan. Okay?
Okay.
So when we get slithers of it in other games, I'm like, yes, give me more. I like romantic movies and things like that, and I'm not ashamed of it, so there's
no need to poke your tongue out at me, madam. Now, for me, another one that I really had no interest in until recently when it was announced that they were going to be making Baldur's Gate 3, so we decided to give one of their earlier games a spin. Larian Studios, where they have made the Divinity Original Sin series, which we are enjoying at the moment, and I definitely have my eye on Baldur's Gate 3 because that's a beloved franchise of mine.
That is.
Notice BioWare are not making Baldur's Gate 3.
Gee, I wonder why.
Another developer was entrusted with it, and I want to see how that pans out. So that will definitely have my eyes on it, and they have done well with the games they have made recently.
One that I think has been on everyone's watch list, especially after E3 this year, CD Projekt Red. Between the Witcher series, which is just amazing, there is Cyberpunk.
Yep.
And now, everyone is hyped for that.
I'm very curious to know whether Cyberpunk's reveal, 2077, would have been as excitable and highly anticipated and beloved by all, A, without Keanu Reeves, but B, without the success and adoration of The Witcher 3 and its incredible critical acclaim and sales and fan reaction. Just think, if that was out of the equation, The Witcher 1 was like a PC game that, some people loved. It was good, nothing special. The Witcher 2 built the fan base a little bit, but The Witcher 3 almost single-handedly put CD Projekt Red on the map with the mainstream. If you didn't know about the Witcher series beforehand, everyone's talking about it now.
Oh, yeah.
And so that momentum carries on to Cyberpunk, and then after that, if that excels, what is next? It's exciting to think about. We'll have to wait and see in a few years' time, but it's exciting.
Absolutely. I guess part of me is always a little nervous that when developers kind of have a big break, I guess, as far as boost in popularity and go from almost like indie size to this big full-blown studio, that they're not going to be able to handle that rapid expansion. So many businesses can't cope with handling that kind of new formatting.
Yeah.
And that becomes their downfall of mismanagement because they're so used to doing things a certain way. Telltale, yeah, exactly. And then you either stretch yourself too thin, bring in too many new people that aren't as familiar with how things work and that change the tone and things, and and then it just hurts everything. So we're fingers crossed for those developers. We wish nothing but the best and that things go smoothly, because then we win out because we get the great games from it.
Very true. Nicely done.
So this week, I believe, is technically your last week of your challenge.
That's right. Xbox Game Pass will have my full attention for one more week, but I am kind of directionless at the moment. I got sort of swept away by the Outer Wilds for so long.
Did you put autopilot on and then crash into a meteorite?
All right, look, I already owned up to all of my autopilot mistakes.
I was just talking about in real life.
Now, I have to maybe go back and revisit some of the options that I had before I got swept into space with the Outer Wilds. I would like to this week catch up with my good buddy the Falcon for a Silent Hill session, since that has vanished off the gaming goals for weeks on end at this point. We were trying to play through the entire Silent Hill series, and we did the first two, and then we have not hung out in 3 weeks. So, to that. Xbox Game Pass, however, I don't know what'll be next. Maybe I'll take some suggestions. Maybe I'll try something that is not all that great. As weird as that sounds. Maybe I'll start trying some games that I would not normally spend my money on if I was buying them, like Hello Neighbor. A game that's creepy and a little janky, but I wanted to try it out, and I didn't really want to buy it because it didn't look that good. So maybe that's the exact perfect game to try on the Xbox Game Pass. And if all else fails, I'll just go back to Red Dead Redemption 2 and abandon my Xbox month.
Don't forget, of course, we have Divinity Original Sin.
Oh, how could I forget?
We haven't really set many goals as far as our game's concerned. I think this week we should try to become level 15. That way it's like a non-spoilery target. I think we're 12 or 13.
Oh, it's doable.
Doable, I reckon. But that said, sometimes it takes multiple sessions to level up once because the battles just take so long. So, I don't know.
Well, we've done the snow place. Let's try and finish off the forest completely as well, and we'll see how we go in that north side, because that was...
We've got to get to, the Troll King and the mines, I think. I don't know.
Hasn't been going well every time we've tried to...
It's been very slow progress.
Adventure. So we will play that. I will be playing Persona Q2, and although I did one entire dungeon in less than a week, difficulty will be ramping up, so I do not expect to be finished the second level of that, but we'll see how we go. Is there anything else you're going to play/buy this week?
Oh, what do you mean buy?
Well, a certain emblematic flame-related game, maybe a Fire Emblem with 3 houses, comes out this week.
Oh my goodness. You just reminded me of all the ones that I've started and not finished.
Well, are you interested in this one? Maybe you can jump... These aren't games that you must necessarily play
I think this one is
order.
kind of a bit more standalone-ish than the other ones. I could be wrong. That said, though, there's usually lore and little nuggets that are hidden in there that those who play the games and series properly will enjoy, that those who jump in last minute don't get.
Well, you have a considerable size backlog, as do I, and the best cure for that is to buy a brand new game. Because then you just don't even think about it.
Oh dear. We will see as I fight off this cold whether I go back and try to finish off the visual novels that I have, or maybe I will cave to the temptation and get a new game.
You know you can play Fire Emblem on the Switch in bed. Portable. It's an option. It's an option. I'm such a bad influence on you.
We just got back from a big overseas trip. Let's spend more money.
When's payday? Oh, payday's tomorrow. Beautiful.
Oh, there you go. I have your blessing. Where's the credit card? Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions, comments,
Xbox
suggestions.
Game Pass suggestions, what's your favourite developer? We would love to know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have any other ideas of what we can talk about or games that we should try and you want to hear our thoughts on,
Yep.
let us know.
thegaminglovers.com or head to our social media pages. You can find the links from our website there. Until next time, bye Nara.
And cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Gaming Lovers podcast. For more episodes or to watch some live stream gaming, visit thegaminglovers.com.